Well, hello. Welcome once again to Pale Blooms and Beyond. Thank you for joining us today. Marc Maynon was born in Brooklyn, Coney Island, New York in 1987, the son of a Protestant minister and a clinical social worker, and the youngest of three brothers. The family left for California when Marc was 4.5 and settled in the Bay Area where he was raised. Mr. Maynon was a very imaginative child with an affinity for singing. At UCLA, he discovered his love for the guitar and songwriting. Marc, who self produces all of his music, has released two LPs, Sink into the Blue and Sweet Famine. In the works are two progressive folk rock albums to be released in 2024 and 2027. His musical style can be described as poetic folk rock with psychedelic and pastoral elements incorporated. Marc currently resides in the Sacramento area with his wife Bianca, as well as two cats, Tom and Geri. Well, welcome, Marc.
Thanks, Greg. Thank you so much for asking me to be here. Thank you.
Oh, you're very welcome, very welcome. So you were born in Brooklyn, Coney Island. I know you were very young when you left for California, but do you have any memories of New York?
I do, yeah. The other day it's a funny story. On my birthday, my mom, dad, and one of my brothers came to Sacramento, and we spent the evening together, eating and driving around the town. And my dad and my brother were asking each other, "What's the earliest memories you have?" And I was listening to them in the car as they were discussing what was the earliest memories they had. And I was going over it in my brain as I was driving. I was thinking to myself, what was my earliest memory? And I couldn't think of it that day, but eventually it came back to me. So where me and my parents and my brothers lived in Coney Island, we lived right at the end of the boardwalk. You know the Coney Island
Mhm.
boardwalk?
Right,
So we
right.
lived right at the end of that in this gated community called Seagate.
Okay.
And we lived on this street called Tudor Terrace that kind of dead ended. But along the gated community, there was a walkway that went all the way to the beach, because Coney Island Boardwalk is right on the beach. And so the walkway went all the way to the beach. And some of my earliest memories in Coney Island were either my mom, my grandma, or like my nanny taking me and my brother and walking along that long, narrow walkway along the gate of the gated community to the beach, and then getting to the beach and swimming and or going to the boardwalk. So I have a lot of memories of Brooklyn and Coney Island, and my dad was a pastor, so I remember a lot of parts of the church and stuff. And
Oh,
so yeah, so I have a lot of memories of Brooklyn.
okay, okay. Pretty fond memories.
Yeah,
So, yeah, pretty good. Of course, you were four, what, 4.5,
yeah,
uh, when you moved. So, um, I know when I was that age, I don't remember. As I get older, I remember less and less. So,
yeah.
it's like one of those. Okay, well, talk about your earliest recollections of growing up in the Bay Area then.
Just to second what you said, I have found also that I remember less and less the older I get. And so it took a while to even kind of conjure up those memories of New York. But the Bay Area was um, a really great place to grow up, really safe. And ultimately, I think it didn't take very long for me and my brothers to realize what a good move it was for
Right.
us to go to the Bay Area. So, Brooklyn was kind of romantic and pretty diverse and that kind of thing, but it was also pretty rough and tumble. And
I was
you
going
could
to say,
get beat up pretty easily. You could get jumped for your shoes. Back when I was in Brooklyn, like this is another really weird, crazy recollection that I don't remember ever being afraid of in the Bay Area, but in Brooklyn.
mhm,
And of course, I wouldn't have had to been frightened of this as a little kid, but maybe my older brothers would have.
mhm.
You could literally just be jumped for the shoes you had on. If your
Wow.
shoes were nice enough that people would just jump you for them.
Mhm.
So the Bay Area was a way nicer place to live in. It was way safer. The weather was just more even the
Mhm.
whole year. um yeah, it was wonderful. It was wonderful. And I still, I really see the Bay Area as my childhood home, even though I was 4.5 when I moved there. I just have so many fond memories. That place will always truly be home for me.
Oh, there you go. Right, right. A special place in your heart and for you. There you go. Well, speaking of your parents, were either one of your parents musically inclined?
Yeah, if you would consider like musical taste, not necessarily musical ability, but musical taste, then
Mhm.
I would say they both absolutely are musically inclined. My dad, and he's a trumpet player, plays trumpet and
Mm.
loves to write songs. He wrote a lot of Christian songs for like sermons and stuff, for children's sermons. He would write songs about the Bible lesson.
Wow. Okay.
But I would say I got my musical taste from my mom,
Okay.
who grew up in New York in the late 60s, early 70s. And, her brother, my uncle, is a total deadhead, and so really like, and time again, I have found that artists I'm listening to were
Mhm.
artists my mom was a huge fan of. The whole way I got into Cat Stevens was through my mom. And
Is-
so I would say, yeah.
Yeah.
So, yeah,
And you didn't know it at the time, right? I mean, your mom didn't turn you on to him. You just later on. Yeah, that's
yeah,
interesting.
yeah.
Yeah. Um, and your dad being a minister, that's a really good story, that he wrote music and that he played an instrument like that. So is he still active today?
Yeah, he does supply preaching mostly once in a
Mhm.
while. He's pretty much retired, but he's
Okay.
still always trying to write music.
Okay.
And I helped him a few years back. I helped him write a musical about
Uh,
Martin Luther. Martin
yeah,
Luther of old from Germany.
right. Right.
I helped
Right.
him write a musical about that some years ago. So
Right. Is that right? Well, how was that working with your dad on that?
it was cool. It was really, really cool. Like, I think when he was writing songs and I was a little kid, I didn't really have enough experience writing songs to really collaborate with him. But
Right.
then being away at college and learning how to write songs, when we
Hmm.
came back together a few years ago to then try to write this musical, it was great because it was like we had this peer writing partnership. It was
Okay.
like finally the son was capable of writing with his father, and we were able to write all this music together. But I think had I tried that back when I was in like high school, wouldn't have really worked.
Right. As you matured and you kind of bridged that gap a little bit.
Yeah,
Yeah, that's good. That's good. Well, uh, sorry, I have to say this, throw in a dorky statement, but
it's all good.
borrowing from Dusty Springfield, how was it growing up being the son of a preacher man?
Yes, yeah. That
Uh,
no worries. I hear that all the time, and it is a very fine line you have to walk. That's the best way to describe it, is you walk a fine line between being a kid
mhm.
and being this kind of ambassador or emissary of
O-
the pastor's family.
Okay, right.
So it's like this weird thing. You sometimes can just be a kid and you feel like you can, but there's also a little bit more of like a camera on you. It feels like there's a camera on you all the time, especially when you're in the church, because being the pastor's kid, you represent the pastor and the pastor's family. And
So
um,
true.
I know a lot of people rebel because of that. I didn't really rebel. I think I'm just very much a goody two shoes, and I'm a stickler about rules and stuff. But there are things that I'm not. There are things I'm very stubborn about. But I'm pretty much like I follow the rules to a T, and I'm kind of a stickler. And I'm when it comes to like you know taboos and norms and societal expectations, I usually try to really stay within the lines.
Right. Well, was your growing up, was your dad sounds like he wasn't so heavy-handed. He was he gave you the room to grow, and so that sounds like it's a good environment to grow up in. Yeah.
Yeah, I think that's why I didn't rebel, because he was more like the kind of pastor who was about, mercy, forgiveness, and let a kid be a kid.
Right.
Yeah.
Yeah. He knew that you needed to find your own way as well. Well, that's good. That's good. Um, I have to ask you this too. Having two older brothers, I hope you weren't picked on too much as a child.
I'm lucky. Me and my brothers, we used to roughhouse and beat up on each other a lot, but thankfully there wasn't a great deal of teasing. At the end of the day, my eldest brother would always take the time to like take us to a movie, or show us the new movie he just found out about that was really funny. Or so I was really lucky to not have, because I've heard some of the just torture older brothers can put younger brothers through, and I'm
Right.
really grateful that besides some roughhousing and beating up on each other, it never got that bad.
Okay.
So I'm lucky.
What is the age difference between you and your brothers?
So my eldest brother is actually was born in 1979. So he was born quite a bit before me and my other older brother. And
Right.
then my parents waited a few years, and then they had my brother Josh, who was born in 86, and then they had me born in 87.
Next year.
So, yeah.
Got it. Got it. Are you still real close with your brothers? Okay.
Yeah.
Okay. Good. They'll still get along real well.
Yeah.
Either of your brothers musicians?
Oh yeah, man, they
Okay.
are for sure.
Okay.
Um are you are you into punk music at all? Do you listen to punk?
Uh, oh, a little. The older, the late 70s. That I don't listen to any of the new stuff that much. Yeah.
Yeah,
Yeah.
I was just gonna say, because my eldest brother, the one born in 1979, has been in a bunch of popular punk bands in a
Okay.
certain scene. Like he was in a couple pop punk bands in the Bay Area,
Hmm.
and then he moved, when he met his wife, they moved to the South, and he was really big in the Southern punk scene. And
Okay. Whereabouts? Whereabouts in the South? Where?
Chattanooga, Tennessee is where he is right now.
Oh, okay. Okay.
Yeah. And, if you ever get a chance to check them out. So some of the bands are like, in the Bay Area, he was in two bands. One was called Dory Tourette and the Skirt Heads.
Okay.
And then there was another one called Sexy. Those were Bay Area bands.
Okay.
And then when he got to the South, he was in a band that really took on a huge grassroots following called the Future Virgins. Um,
That one does sound familiar. That name.
and
So
and then
yeah.
after that, he's been in a lot of other punk bands. None of them I don't think ever got as big as the Future Virgins, but they're all great bands. He also his wife was in a really popular folk country punk band called This Bike is a Pipe Bomb. So that's what him and his wife was in that band, not him, but his wife was.
Wow.
Um,
You don't want to say that one too loud.
yeah, exactly.
Give you, or in a crowded theater at all.
Yeah, yeah.
No,
That's right.
that's funny. Wow. So, what does he play? What instrument? What does he play?
He
What instrument?
uh,
Go
like
ahead.
me, he's like a multi-instrumentalist,
Okay. Okay.
but he's really phenomenal at electric guitar and acoustic, but he's phenomenal at a guitar pretty much.
Okay. Okay.
Yeah.
Let me ask you this: where did you pick up the strong pipes and penchant for singing?
I'm not sure. I kind of feel like um I believe in reincarnation and stuff like that. So I sometimes wonder if it was from a past life, because um I don't I don't remember ever like deciding to sing,
Okay.
and I don't remember feeling um like seeing someone sing and saying to myself, I want to do that. It was
Hmm.
just something that just happened. And my mom said she remembers when I was like only about 2 years old, they were driving around and they heard me in the back seat of the car just singing and singing and singing. And
Wow.
she was like, wow. She was like, where did he learn to do that? She was like, he's going to be a really strong singer. And where did it come from? I have no idea.
That's very interesting. Yeah. Maybe it just, like you said, it was meant to be,
Yeah.
you know? Wow. Can you remember the first album that you ever got?
Yeah, it would have been, I think, the Backstreet Boys, because like like I said, I didn't I didn't know about my mom's musical tastes early on. I only found out about them later. And then
Uh,
of course, most of the music I was singing was like church music, hymns.
right.
But I am a child of the 90s and the early 2000s. And so that's why my first album actually has quite a bit of a sound of like late 90s, early 2000s rock, because
Okay.
I grew up listening to that. But yeah, the Backstreet Boys, because to me it was just like their vocal harmonies were so good. I was like, this is great music.
Right, right, right. I like to ask that question because most people are embarrassed
Yeah,
to
I
talk
am.
about to talk about what their first one was. So that's always one I like to throw in. Well, were there artists, bands that you liked as a teen?
Yeah, it's crazy. Already by my teenage years, I got bitten by the
Mhm.
British late 60s, early 70s rock.
Right.
And my all-time favorite band when I was in high school was Queen.
Okay.
I was just obsessed with Freddie Mercury. Yeah.
I was into Queen too, very, very much so. Yes. Prior to going to UCLA, did you have an interest in pursuing a career in music?
Um, I developed one very serendipitously,
Okay.
because I feel like to some degree, to be a musician, to some degree, you need a level of courage,
Right.
so because you have to get up on stage and play a instrument at the very least, right? Some people
Right.
get up on stage and they sing and play an instrument. So there's like a level of courage, right? But I was such a shy kid. Um, and what happened though was I didn't realize how powerful my voice was.
Hmm.
So I auditioned for a musical at my school.
Ah, okay.
Then I got the lead part,
Hmm.
and the rest was just like all my teachers were telling me, you got to study musical theater in college. You got to be a musical theater actor. You're made for it. So about 2 to 3 years prior to college, I was on this track where it was like, oh wow, like this is like my calling. Everyone is telling me you are made to be a musical theater actor. So what happened though was I got to UCLA and I started realizing, this whole musical theater scene, it isn't for me.
Right.
Uh, it's it's really an acquired taste, honestly.
Right. Right.
Yeah.
I could see that. My son, 16 years old, is in choir.
Oh, cool.
But yeah, so and they last year they went to London on their trip and sang there with one of the youth choirs, and they were there for a whole week. So, but he really enjoys it, I think.
That's great.
So yeah, he's got a decent voice himself. Well, let me ask you, once you did after you were at UCLA, and you did decide to take that path, um,
Yeah.
you know, um, what were your parents' reactions at first, particularly your dad? Yeah.
I can tell you, it was my parents reacted the same way so many people did.
Mhm.
And I think this is really an important takeaway for anyone watching this right now. And I'm by no means am I really like successful or anything, but um, I think what I would say is um, there's going to be a point where, and I think you're on the right path if this happens, when you pivot and you say, okay, actually, I now know what I want. This is what I want.
Mhm.
And a lot of people come out to basically say, oh, but that's not you. You know what I
Mhm.
mean?
Mhm.
Everyone said that, not just, my parents, kind of were like, well, you're a musical theater actor, and all your teachers and all these people saw so much in you. And why would you deviate from that? This is what you're supposed to do. But it was also like so many classmates I had, so many teachers felt that way about me, like kind of um, seeing in me a person who had been led astray or was confused, you know?
Okay.
I had one or two teachers who maybe was like, "Oh, that's cool that you're doing this. I
Mm,
support you." But the vast majority of them were kind of like, "Well, no, you've just gone through this whole conservatory training,
mm,
This is, you're a musical theater actor. This is what you're supposed to do." So I had to combat that for a long time. And I would say I graduated in 2009, but I really started to take on this calling as a singer-songwriter, I would say around 2008 was
okay.
where I was so bitten by the music bug. It was just like, this has got to be it. But
Right.
I honestly would say I had to fight, I had to fight people's expectations of me from about 2008 all
Mm-hmm.
the way up until 2014,
Mm-hmm.
quite a while. And by 2014, I told friends and family, okay, look, this musical, it was a musical film. I did a musical film called Love Laced Bullets, in
Okay.
which I played this hitman who,
Mm,
like, but it was a musical set in like the 30s, but I played a hitman. It was a short film. I told everybody like, this is it, no more. Like after this movie, I'm
right.
done acting, and I haven't acted since. But people were frustrated and they didn't understand what I was doing.
Mm-hmm.
But I knew what I wanted. I would
Mm-hmm.
even argue that I knew what I wanted around 2006, 2007, because I started playing the guitar around 2006, and I already knew what I wanted. I was listening to Cat Stevens every day. I was learning how to play his songs on guitar, and I just realized, man, this is it. I'm going to be a singer-songwriter. But I was so deep into the machine of the musical theater conservatory at UCLA, and it felt like there was no way I was
Right.
going to be able to dig myself out of that, you
Right.
know?
Did,
So, yeah,
did you, sorry, did you get any flack about you can't make a living doing that? Did you get that kind of thrown at you?
that's a really good point. Surprisingly, nobody ever said that to me. But the funny thing is this: I had a teacher at UCLA, and I want to quote him. He was in the music department. His name's Peter Rutenberg, and really great guy. He taught this class called um, "The Art of Listening." And that
Uh,
class, I took it, I think, in 2007, and just as I was like learning how to play guitar and really getting into it. And that class just expanded my mind. And after I graduated UCLA, uh, I asked to meet him. I wanted to go out to lunch with him because he had done this thing where at the end of the class, he had everybody, um, if they wanted to, come up in single file to the stage and talk to him and have a one-on-one, because it was a massive class in like a big auditorium. And I went up to him after, when the whole class had ended for the quarter and it was the last class, and I looked him in the eye. I said, Professor Rutenberg, I just want you to know your class has really inspired me, and I want to be a singer-songwriter so bad. I've learned how to play guitar. And he goes, okay. He looked at me and said, okay, so you've learned how to play guitar and you want to be a singer-songwriter. He's like, well, then this is what you have to do next. He's like, have you played live for anyone? And I
mm,
said, no. And he said, I want you to take your guitar and take one of your songs, and you have to go to an open mic and you've got to play live. And then you're a singer-songwriter. And I kid you not, right after that, maybe it was the following weekend, I found an open mic on off Pico Boulevard near Santa Monica. It was called McCabe's Guitar Shop, and they had an open mic. And I went and I played a song there,
oh,
and it was totally nerve wracking. I was scared out of my mind, but I did it. And then all these years later, it was 2012. I got a hold of Peter Rutenberg and I said, could we go out to lunch? Like, I just want you to know you inspired me so much and all this stuff. So we went out to lunch and we were, shooting the breeze, talking shop about music and all that stuff. And he said to me this quote that I'll tell you now, because no one ever said to me like, you won't be able to make a living as a musician or you'll never survive. But Peter Rutenberg said this quote that just amazed me. He said, um, I'm so grateful my parents never punished me for pursuing a career in music. He said, but
oh,
I think they knew that pursuing a career in music was punishment in enough itself.
oh,
So,
That's great. Right. That is really good. I like that one. I'll definitely remember that one.
Yeah.
Yeah, yeah. So they just kind of like, in that sense, kind of back off. It's like, okay, you're gonna pay your dues.
Yeah. Exactly.
Anyway, yes, yes, yeah. It's
Yeah.
not the easiest route to take.
Yeah.
I know that for sure. Well, so you were playing guitar while you were at UCLA, right?
Yeah.
Um, and did you do any busking while you were in college?
No, I never really had the courage to do any busking, but I ended up being a busker for a while. I was watching your interview with Maximilian, and man, that was so interesting to hear his stories about busking,
Right.
because I know I really could relate to him. So for me, my busking experience was in 2016. I had a very short-lived stint of being a full-time musician.
Okay.
It was December of 2015 I started, and by September of 2018, I officially was no longer a full-time musician. I went from being a hobbyist musician before 2016 to
Mhm.
being a hobbyist musician again in late 2018. But for all of 2016, all of 2017, and the majority of 2018, I was surviving by doing freelance music production
Mhm.
and chord arranging for people, as
Okay.
well as busking,
Okay.
lots and lots and lots of busking. And what I did was I did the farmers market circuit,
Oh,
and
okay.
I basically busked on Tuesdays, Thursdays, Fridays, Saturdays, and Sundays. There would be markets sometimes all week, and usually I had to play about 4 hours per market. So there was
Wow.
a period of time there where I was playing, upwards of 16 hours of guitar a week. It was crazy.
Mm. Mm.
Um, I was able though to make a good like 150 to 200, in some cases like 350, $400 a show, farmers market.
Wow.
I never made any money though playing cafe shows. I played some cafe shows and bar shows, but those were always just sort of for like pleasure, you know? I would
Okay.
do a half hour to an hour set, sometimes longer. I'd play my own songs with some covers sprinkled in, but really it was just to fulfill my own need to play in a setting with a nice PA indoors.
Right.
But then where I really made the money was the farmers markets.
Markets.
So
Wow. Did somebody steer you in that direction, or did you just kind of find it out yourself playing
uh,
farmers market?
my wife, who at the time was my girlfriend, when I became a full-time musician, it was her idea. She was like, "Oh, she's like, there's you can play at these farmers markets and they'll give you a stipend and you can get tips." And
Hmm.
she set up some of my first farmers markets for me, got me
Okay.
on their roster,
Yeah.
and then after that it just took off because it was like farmers market gigs begot farmers market gigs begot new farmers market gigs. It
All
just
right.
before I knew it, my calendar was full.
Right. Yeah, and a lot of traffic there too.
Yeah.
Yeah, a lot of people going through those. Wow. Okay. Well, let me ask you about the Bay Area itself. Very pretty landscapes there. I've
Yeah.
noticed. Um, I imagine that has been a lot of inspiration for a lot of your songwriting too. Uh,
Yeah.
yeah. Describe the forest of Point de Pinole. Pinole?
Yeah, Point
Yeah.
Pinole. Yeah.
Pinole. Pinole.
Actually,
Yeah.
it's probably pronounced Pinole, but because it's like probably comes from Spanish,
Yeah. Yeah.
probably because so many things in California do. But yeah, we called it Point Pinole. Um, yeah, that place is pretty cool. There was a period of time there where every day I was walking the whole perimeter of the park, and it's pretty huge. But any sort of issue I ran into in life, any sort of negativity I was dealing with, or if I was feeling down on myself, I could literally walk the whole perimeter of Point Pinole, and by the
Hmm.
time I got back, I was totally fine. It was like I exercised myself of what I was
Right.
dealing with.
Right.
Um, but I think really for me, like especially starting from Sweet Famine, but there might be some elements of Sink into the Blue. But starting from Sweet Famine onward to the next couple albums I'm going to be releasing, for me, Point Pinole and the forest and the Bay Area hills, the Berkeley Hills, the El Cerrito Hills. Um, for me, my music really just strives to give people sort of the magic quality or feeling of those places. Um, that's what I strive for with, like, especially since Sweet Famine, with every single piece of music I do, I'm just striving to give people this quality of the quality of like the simple beauty that you see in nature, you know?
Yeah.
Because that's just always, it's restored my soul again and again and again without fail. So I try to imbue all my music with that. And my next two albums that come out are very much in line with that.
With that. Wow. That's, yeah, I like that concept. And it's like you said, being outdoors. I know just myself, being outdoors in a really scenic area, like you said, it's spiritual kind of a
Yeah.
thing. Really, it ministers to you.
Yeah.
So, so I know that has yourself as well. Talk. Speaking of songwriting, take me through your typical writing process.
Well, in 2016, so my writing process always sort of transforms and evolves, you know? And so I've written songs in so many different ways. Um, I think early on it was all while strumming a guitar.
Hmm.
Um, then there became a process where I thought to myself, you know, melody is king, you know, melody's everything. And so I started just taking my phone with me and I would be humming all day, you know, as I went to classes and going around and just humming and humming and humming. And suddenly melodies would come to me and I'd record them.
Okay.
Later, I'd sit down at the piano or I'd sit at a guitar and I'd start figuring out, okay, what key is that in and what chords sound good beneath that. And I think I came up with some pretty cool dynamic songs that way. Um, and then there was a period of time where I sat at the piano and I
Mhm.
would just um, play piano and just start kind of singing and usually with a recorder on, sometimes not, but I would just start singing and humming things as I was playing different crazy chords. Because I'm not as comfortable with piano, I found more accidents, you know, where I would
Okay.
go to like a chord I wasn't expecting and then I'd be like, wow, that's, I wouldn't have figured that out on guitar. And
Right.
so then I would keep that. And if I had a recorder going, I'd figure out what I just done. Sometimes if I didn't have a recorder going, I'd lose it or I could somehow find it again.
Okay.
Um, and then there were times where um, there was a brief period of time where I was using a synthesizer. Like I would set up a beat with a synthesizer and I would strum along to it, or I would put pads, some sort of electronic pads beneath it, and I
Okay.
would just sing something over that and see what came out of it. I love to experiment with different instrument setups when writing songs because it's easy when you only play guitar to kind of get stuck into the same kind of chord or song structure, you know, if you just stick with that one instrument.
Right.
But if you switch up the instrument, suddenly it's really freeing and you come up with a song you really would have never thought you would have come up with.
Mhm. That's a good
Um,
point.
yeah, I love doing that kind of thing. The one thing for me that I used to do when I first started writing, but that I really realized quickly stopped working for me was some people are phenomenal at this. They come up with the title of the song first, or they write out all the lyrics in a kind of meter, you know,
Hmm.
and then they set all the music to it. I know
Right.
people who are brilliant at that. For me, I did that for a little while when I was just starting songwriting, but quickly I found that I felt trapped by the lyrics I would write and the meter I would write them in, and then I felt like I couldn't go beyond that.
Okay.
So, yeah,
And I like that idea of different instruments too. You
yeah.
find, well, of course, you self-taught, guitarist. Going to the piano, would you say the piano is harder to learn than the guitar, or vice versa?
For me, piano is definitely harder.
Right.
And I know people have said the opposite. They say, you know, oh, with the strings and the intricacy of chord positions and the pain on the fingers, they say piano is way easier.
Right.
For me, I think I just I have some kind of anxiety I've never been able to get over when I sit at the piano and I just see all those black and white keys. It's like my mind just goes blank, you know? And
Right.
I can write beautiful stuff on the piano. I can practice it up the wazoo and then I can record it in a piece, but then
Right.
put me in front of a crowd of people and say, "Okay, Mark, play that piece." I'm going
Right.
to struggle through it because it's like, and I even took piano lessons and I had some recitals back when I was a kid.
Right.
And I just, something about, like I said, like all those black and white keys, and there's just 88 of them, and I just freak out. My mind
Right.
just goes blank.
Let me ask you this too. You think it's easier when you're performing, maybe for to cover up a mistake when you're playing guitar
Oh, yeah.
than it would be playing piano? It would stand out more if you made a mistake on a piano, I would bet.
Yeah, I totally, yes. Sorry I cut you off there, but
No, no.
yeah, I 100%. I can cover up any mistake I make on guitar versus on piano. It's just
Right.
right there.
Right. Right. And let me ask you, do you still have the residency at Cafe Pascal?
Oh, that would be so cool. No, I think Cafe Pascal may have gone out of business too, unfortunately. But
Okay.
yeah, I had a residency there for a while. I also had a residency at Farley's Coffee in San Francisco, which was so much fun.
Oh,
But
wow.
I think Farley's is still doing okay. But no residency at Cafe Pascal, and um no residency at Farley's, and gas being the price it is too, I don't make it back to the Bay Area that often, um and also for that matter, I don't play live too much anymore. I want to,
Mhm.
but I think it's a couple reasons. I don't have the connections and the understanding of like the venues out here in the Sacramento area that I could book and play.
Mhm.
Um, but also, there's just always that fear that I'm going to get sick, or if I'm asymptomatic, I might get somebody else sick. I had
Right.
to, call out the other day because I got sick for like a week. And now when I go to work, I always wear a mask. So I'm still a little bit squeamish about it, but I would love to play again because um, that's just like playing is like when you have a good show, there's like no feeling like it. I can't compare it to anything.
Right. Right. I've heard that before too. Yeah.
Yeah.
You're reaching an audience, you're touching the audience, you see their reaction. It's like immediate.
Yeah.
With an album, it may be a long time before you get any feedback, but that live show, I've heard that, it's
Mm.
nothing like it. Well, one thing, talking about your voice, when we talked about that earlier, I noticed you have a very nice range in your voice. You
Oh,
can hit
yeah.
high scales, but also lower ones nicely too.
Thank you. Yeah, I was told that in college. They said to me that my range was really wide. Yeah. And
Mm.
I don't know why that is. Um, on the note of the singing though, one thing I forgot to mention was one figure in my ancestry who had a really strong voice was my opa, my dad's father.
Okay.
And my oma had a strong voice too, but my dad's father's voice was so strong that when he was in World War I,
Okay.
and both my parents are immigrants, so my mom's from Colombia and my
Okay.
dad is from Germany.
Okay.
Um,
I was going to say Oma and Opa, Germany. Yeah. Yeah.
yeah,
Yeah.
so my dad's dad, my opa, was in World War I, and he was fighting under the Kaiser Wilhelm.
Mm.
And his voice was so strong that the the regiment or the group or whatever would always have my opa start the singing. They would
Wow.
always be like, "Cray, start the singing." Sorry,
Mhm.
that's my stage name. I mean, that's my real name. Sorry, I wasn't gonna say that. But
Okay.
he would say, "Cray, start the singing." So he would start, um, and they said his pitch was so good. He didn't need accompaniment. He didn't need any kind of pitch pipe or anything. He could just start singing in this key, and the whole regiment could sing with him, or however many people he was
Mm.
marching with. So there's some inkling that I got it from that man. I never met him. He
Right.
died long before I was born, but there's some idea that maybe I got that strong voice and that crazy range from
Hmm.
him, probably, you know.
Probably. Yeah, one side of my family, my mother's side is German,
Oh, cool.
Altizer. So yeah, it sounds very, very German. The other side is Scotch Irish. So
Oh, cool.
yeah. So for what it's worth, right? Um, let's talk about some of your music catalog of albums and EPs and some of the songs. Uh, 2013, your first EP, Download Jesus. Does the title refer to how we've become so dependent on technology, the internet, to be the answer and source of all knowledge? Want to know Jesus? Just download Jesus. Is that am I on the right track?
You are. And actually though, it's interesting. It's a it means that and both kind of the opposite. It I was trying to kind of draw this dichotomy, right?
Right.
That would bring to mind a sort of something that people would have to ask themselves, take like, you know, take a hard look in the mirror. So it means exactly what you said. And
Mhm.
it also kind of can mean the opposite of like, you can't download Jesus. Like that's impossible. You know what I mean?
Right.
But it's actually getting at that exact thing you said, because we do live in a culture, you know, and we have since then and we continue to. Ironically enough, 2012, right before I released that album, was the year historically that smartphones became
Mhm.
widely accessible to the mass population.
That's right.
And so this culture was starting up of, yeah, download it, you know, download it onto your app,
Mhm.
download the map, download, you know, your work schedule, download an app that's going to get groceries to come right to your door. And it just feels like you can get anything you want with your
Right.
phone or with your computer, and you can just download it, you could pay for it, and there it is right at your door. And the kind of comparison I guess the message I was trying to make was, can you download Jesus? I bet
Mhm.
there's a huge population of people who think you can, you know, and
Right.
think it's that simple that you can get a Bible app that gives you a new verse, you know,
Right.
every weekend, and somehow you've got Jesus, you know.
Right.
But the converse I feel like is true.
Right.
I mean, you can't download um I guess what I would sub for that name Jesus in this instance to be more general is, you can't download divine wisdom, you
Right.
know? You can't download divine truth.
Right.
Divine truth and divine wisdom is simply something, all you can do is pray for it,
Mhm.
and all you can do is live your life and experience your life
Right.
and learn it through experience and suffering and hardship. But you can't download it. But that was the kind of dichotomy I was trying to make people think about.
Right. I like that. And it is that mentality that, it's just at our fingertips, and it
Yeah.
makes people lazy, I think, it's like, well, we can, this is the solution, right here in my palm of my hand, and I don't need to search any further. Yeah, that's a very, very good analogy there too. I like that. Um, Carnival Light. I like this one. It's very evocative of actually being at a fair or a carnival. I mean, I get that feeling. If I didn't even listen to the lyrics, it would just be like, wow, this is like a feel like I'm at a carnival.
That's
Yeah,
awesome.
yeah, yeah. What was your thoughts about when you wrote that song? What did you put into that song?
Yeah, that song is one of those songs where it's it it's one of those songs where when I pick up my guitar, even all these years later, I feel like the song invites me. Every
Right.
time I pick up the guitar, it's like it invites me to play it. It's
Okay.
almost like it is sort of just like um it's like this warm carnival that it's like inviting me into the
Yeah.
carnival. And I really love it. You know what's so funny though about that song though too is, I don't know if you've had any other singer-songwriters um mention this on your show yet, but sometimes a song feels like it's never been finished, and it kind of never will be finished. And its true kind of complete form more exists in your mind and in a live performance, but that the recording could never really capture it.
Mm,
Um,
okay. Hmm.
Believe it or not, I recorded 2 renditions of that song, maybe even 3, and one of them was full of all kinds of fanfare, xylophones and synthesizers playing, string parts, and I couldn't figure out how to present the song in such a way that would um, feel or sound. That's the best way to say it. I couldn't figure out how to present the song so that it sounded the way it felt inside of me.
Right,
It
right.
felt like this carnival, this welcoming carnival that was, at dusk with glimmering lights and, people walking through, stands and popcorn on the ground and cotton candy in the air. Like it felt that way,
Like
but
that.
I wasn't sure if it sounded that way. And what I ended up doing was I decided, you know what, I'm just going to record it. It's going to have a drum roll at the beginning with a cymbal, a little bit of piano, and it's going to have um, 2 guitars, one doing very light picking and the other one doing the strumming. And I'm so grateful that it sounds like a carnival. I'm so grateful that to you it sounds like a carnival. That's really what I was going for.
Right.
Um, but it's one of those songs where to this day I sometimes say, do I want to re-record it again? Do I want to do it with, the xylophone again and bring a string arrangement in? And it's always this thing of like, oh man, it's like that song that'll never be finished, but it's okay that it'll never be finished, but it'll always be more beautiful in my mind than how it came out.
Right, right. Yeah, I think that's something to be said about the imagination too, that a lot of times it's hard to put that actually on paper or in chords, like you said, it's up here, but good musicians find a way to do
Yeah,
that. And I think most of your music does convey that.
thank you.
Uh, Challenge of Extremes. I really like the message in that one because it has really, really good message. Um, and then Under a Stone. That's a very beautiful track. I like the piano as a primary instrument in that song. That
Thank you. Thanks so
you're
much.
oh yeah. Um,
No
2000,
worries.
2015, Watch Pot.
Yeah.
Okay. What's the meaning there in Watch Pot? First of all.
Um, you know that expression, a watched pot never boils?
Yeah, yeah.
That so I got rid of the ed. I don't know why. For some reason, watch pot sounded better to me than watched pot.
Watch Pot.
So I got rid of the ed, but it comes from that expression, a watched pot never boils.
Right.
Yeah.
I,
I was
I Go ahead.
I was just struggling to for some reason I was struggling to begin recording the album. And it
Hmm.
was like, I don't know, I didn't know what was going to make the pot boil over and I was going to be able to just record it. So
Okay.
I called it that.
Okay. Yeah, that brings back memories. I hadn't heard that expression in a while, but you're right. Yeah. Um, Vintage Lens. I like the addition of the horn in that one. Yeah, it really nice touch. And that's a nice ballad right there.
Thank you.
Yeah. How long did it take you do you remember to write that song?
It's a good question.
Yeah.
That was another one that went through quite a few renditions, but I was very pleased with where it landed. So I recorded a version of that song on guitar, and I think I even showed my brother a kind of a beat I had in mind for it. My brother Josh, who plays drums, Josh plays drums on all my songs, and
Okay.
so, but he and I never ended up recording that version of it. I might maybe did some demos on acoustic guitar, but then it was one of those moments where I was like, there is a very romantic quality about that song. And I was like, how do I convey that romantic quality? And for some reason, the guitar wasn't doing it. So then I switched to piano. And
Oh,
for some reason, when I sat down at the piano and I started playing it, it was like, that's where the song belonged finally. And it was like, oh, this is a piano song. Just suddenly just sank in.
right.
Um, but it didn't take too long to record. It actually came together pretty quickly. Once I figured out that I should put it on piano, it came together pretty quickly. Before I figured out that it was going to be a piano song, I did fiddle with it for a while on guitar. But on guitar, it was just lacking something. So I thought of all these different elements I could bring to it in the studio, and it didn't work. So then I realized, no, I do have to go simpler. And the
Right.
piano had that girth I needed.
Right. Yeah, that's a good brings up a good point. You feel like some songs there's too many instruments, too much thrown into the mix. You know, it makes it too complicated, and then sometimes you have to just kind of, like you said, simplify a little bit.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I struggle with that still. I still struggle with, I can make things way more complicated in music. I can really cram recordings, and I still struggle with that.
Yep. Yep. I think a lot of musicians do. I think they do. Um, from 2015, Sink into the Blue. I like a song that the title is misleading. I like those kind of songs, like See My Smile.
Yeah.
You know, the first look at that title, people are going to think, oh, this is an uplifting, you know, a positive song. Look at my smile, this kind of thing. But then listen to the lyrics, you know, that follow, and it takes on a whole different meaning.
Yeah. Yeah. No, wow. I'm like really blown away you mentioned that, because that's exactly what I was going for. And no one's ever pointed out that nuance, that is what I'm going for, you know. That the smile's actually slipping away, right? It's not there, and or it's going away. And then the final line, I kind of intended it to be sort of a the person will see the smile now that the smiler is gone. You know what I mean?
Mm-hmm,
The
mm-hmm.
smiler is gone, but the person will, now they'll really see the smile because it's no longer there. You know,
Right,
so the end of the song ends on, you'll see my smile, but it's
right.
because it slipped away, you know, it's gone.
It's gonna.
So yeah, it's a bit of a morbid song, and I don't know, sometimes though, you know how I was talking earlier about how I'm kind of a goody two shoes, I'm a stickler for the rules and stuff. The one place where I don't hold any punches is with my music. And interestingly enough, it's not like, it doesn't take on the form of, you know, swear words, or it doesn't take on the form of you know, lewd lyrics or anything like that. When I was first starting to write songs with some of my friends in college, and we were writing rock songs, we enjoyed being profane and lewd and all that stuff, but they were just, it was fun, you know, as kids. But
Right.
more so, where I don't compromise in my music is sometimes when I'm writing a song, the song just asks me to go there, you know?
Right.
And
Right.
that song, See My Smile, it was like it fell into place, and it was like the lyrics and the innuendo and the metaphor and the tone just so perfectly fell into place. And it, I mean, you know, not to be too, I don't want to like put too many ideas in the listener's head, because I want them to sort of decide what the song is about. But it's about a very depressed person who's sort of on their way out, you know,
Mhm.
and they're coming to terms with that, you know, and so when I wrote the song, I sat on it for a while. Like I was like, I can't put this out because there's nothing like uplifting about this, and people are going to probably be worried about me if I put this song out. They're going to think, you know, but because I'm really okay in that way, but I just said to myself, man, some songs demand to be heard, and even if I'm not feeling this right now, maybe somebody is, you know.
Right.
And what I felt that inspired that song, um I guess I guess the song took it and amplified it. For me, what inspired the writing of that song was when I was in college, you know, I was coming of age. I was learning what it meant to be a young man living away from his parents and his siblings in a new city in Los Angeles, you know, coming to terms with, you know, was I going to get into a relationship, and not having luck finding relationships, not necessarily feeling like I fit in with people, feeling overly sensitive, you know,
Mm.
And so what happened was I would go on these long walks at night when I didn't have any homework or anything. And, my friends were doing homework or they were hanging out with their girlfriends or whatever. I would just go like on a really long walk through the
Mhm.
streets, and I would sometimes jog, or maybe I'd get something to eat, but I would just listen to music, or I would think and I would think and I would think about where I was and where I wanted to see myself.
Mhm.
Um, and See My Smile was born out of those walks. However, I wasn't suicidal or anything like that while I was out walking like that. But somehow when I was thinking back to that time and I started to write See My Smile, and I actually wrote it around 2013, this especially morose, especially depressed version of myself from some alternate universe grabbed the mic and started singing that song. And it took on the shape that it did. But the person singing that song, that just flowed out of me as I was playing, it was so eloquent and so just to the point, and just so well spoken that it was like I couldn't control it. I just wrote the song, it came out of me. And then for years I would always sit down, and it was one of those songs that invited me to play it. It was one
Mhm.
of those songs that was like, you want to play me, so I'd play the song. And so eventually I had to record it. I said to myself, I've got to record See My Smile, I've got to. So I finally did.
Right, right. Well, we're glad you did.
Thank you.
A lot of people are glad you did. Um, I like I like Pray for Him.
Oh yeah.
Uh, it's just a well composed and performed song. Uh, dare I say, hit material.
Oh, thank you.
Yeah, I think that song has potential.
Thank you.
Yeah, yeah. So how do you feel about that track?
Oh, I like it. And I can tell you another kind of funny story about it, I guess. I'm full of, probably you're noticing, I'm full of anecdotes about my songs and memories I have about writing
That's what
them.
I like. That's what I
Cool.
like.
So I'll tell you a story about Pray for Him. So um uh when I was leaving Los Angeles in 2012, I had this incredible year in 2012, and living alone in Los Angeles. I was still in touch with all my friends, and I had just moved out from living with them, and I was living on my own. My dad had told me he'd support me a little bit while I pursued acting. And, I told them I would, because they really wanted me to try to get some kind of break with my degree, because I'd gotten a degree in musical theater. So I was out auditioning, at least once a week, sometimes 2 or 3 times a week. But when you're an auditioning actor, you just wait by the phone a lot, and you submit your headshot and whatnot. So I had what I would call a very lonely year alone in this house, auditioning. And my company, for the most part, my company was music that I found on YouTube. And I will say that I believe it was maybe 3 tracks from Tending the Pale Bloom. I discovered Tending the Pale Bloom in 2012 when I was living alone that year.
Okay.
And there's 3 tracks I'll tell you about a little later that
Okay.
were some of they were 3 of the tracks among that little repertoire or of music I was listening to at the time that kept me a lot of company. And but I had a very lonely year, and by the end of that year, it was time for me to leave LA. I had told my friends that I was moving back to the Bay Area to be near my family, and they knew that 2012 was my last year in LA. And so it was the end of the year, and one of my friends, it was terrible, gave me a pot brownie that was incredibly strong. And I was not big into drugs or anything like that. I had maybe had a pot cracker or two back when I was living with my friends in like 2009 or 10. So I was not big into drugs. My friend gave me this chocolate peanut butter, which is a deadly combination because I love chocolate and peanut butter. And like a fool, I ate the whole thing on an empty stomach the
Okay.
day before my parents were going to get back to LA to pick me up in their van and take me back to the Bay. So, needless to say, I had a total freak out. A total freak out. And I can't even be around the smell of pot anymore, or I get anxious because of how bad that trip was. But when I got back to the Bay, it was like somebody had, I mean, I knew who I was. I'd had some disassociative experiences from the trip. Like I felt a little bit like not totally sure who I was, but it wasn't that bad. I just was feeling very emotionally unstable. But it also felt like somebody had taken, like my brain was a whiteboard,
Okay.
and with all sorts of writing, and someone had just taken a whiteboard eraser and just got rid of
Okay.
all of it. And so when I got back to the Bay Area, there was this blank whiteboard in my brain, and
Okay.
I was just fried a little bit, and I was going to the church my parents were attending, and I was singing in the choir with them, but I was pretty anxious all the time. I was scared to even like sometimes when I like early on in my first 3 months or so back in the Bay Area, I was scared to fall asleep because the feeling of falling asleep felt like, because of dreams, felt like I was losing control of my mind, and I would startle awake
Oh.
because my mind was still so sensitive about having been so out of control during that drug trip.
Mhm.
Um, then I started, within a few months of having moved back to the Bay Area, I started dating my girlfriend, who wound up being, my wife. And um, what happened was, the special place that Pray for Him holds in my heart
Mhm.
is, that was the first song I sat down and wrote again after that whole experience. Um,
Oh.
and it was like there was a coming back to myself that happened
Mm.
about maybe 3 or 4 months into having moved back to the Bay after that drug trip. There was this feeling of coming back to myself. And when I came back to myself, I picked up the guitar again. It was within a few days of that experience of having come back to myself after that trip. I picked up the guitar again and I began writing
Mm.
Pray for Him.
Oh,
And
okay.
it flowed out of me. It was very just natural.
Mhm.
It also was one of those songs that for years later always invited me to play it when I would sit down. And then probably the most interesting thing about it is that um when I looked back at the song years and years later, I realized that the song was almost like the lyrics of the song, which came out of me stream of consciousness, were like a conversation between me and my girlfriend. And
Mm.
as any couple will have, in your first 6 months of dating, it can be rocky. You're learning each other, and there's fighting, and there's understanding of boundaries and stuff. But it's amazing that somehow all of that synthesized into this song, and it's almost like the lyrics are her and me talking to each other, especially the chorus.
Okay.
um
Okay.
so, and of course, the subject matter was actually pretty personal stuff about my family, her family, and our relationship that I probably wouldn't be able to disclose. But I can assure you that when I looked back years later on that song, I realized that the lyrics and the chorus especially is almost verbatim things we were both struggling with in our lives, and sharing those with each other and communicating those to each other.
Mm.
So the song was like this very strange, almost like byproduct of just this relationship and those months of my life that I'd experienced after that drug trip. It just sort of birthed this song really, really effortlessly, and very kind of spookily, even, I would say. Like it was just like the spirit of what I'd been going through just manifested into a song.
Mm. Mm. I like that. That's why I had to get you to clarify what Watch Pot
Yeah.
was about.
Yeah.
Okay. No, I wasn't really thinking that, but now that you brought up the drug trip,
Yeah.
I I'm glad I asked you.
Yeah.
Um, um, moving on to Sweet Famine from 2018. Um, that might bring us to a point if you want to play. We talked about playing a couple of songs. The Only One Who Stays.
Sure.
Um, you can hear the UK, at least I can hear the UK European folk influence in that
Yeah.
song. Yeah, very much so. Um, and if you want to take this opportunity, are you ready? Would
Yeah,
you
absolutely. And I just
like?
want to say, the fact that I'm the first American you've
Mhm.
interviewed, that is such an honor to me, because to me, it's the Brits. The Brits are my all-time favorites, you know? All
Right.
the music that I started, like, from when I was a freshman in high school and I got into Queen.
Mhm.
Um, it's been the British invasion, and it's been the British artists that have just time and time again speak to me so much. So the fact that I'm the first American, thank you. I'm very honored.
Okay.
So I'll play, yeah, The Only One Who Stays. I love to play this song, and do you mind if I click on this original sound for musicians? I'll say on.
Sure.
There we go. Cool. All right. And then I'll turn it back off once we're talking again, I'll turn it back off so
All
the
right.
audio is okay. All right. So this is The Only One Who Stays. Let's see. Do 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 you know just what it's like to be the only one? Do you know just what it feels to be the only one? The only one who stays, the only one who goes, the only one to sing, hoping to reach the end. Can you see the time of the clock on the wall of the house where you grew up? It's still been ticking. Do you know just what you'll do if you're the only one? Do you know just where you'll go if you're the only one? Some birds will lead the way, the softest bed of hay, until you're old and gray into the night again. Are you sure the blue of your eyes are in brown? They've been changing every day, growing deeper. Do you know just what it's like to be the only one? The only one
Very nice. Very nice, Mark. And and you didn't have any microphone on your voice, and it comes through so clearly like that.
Thank
Well,
you.
the guitar too, but your voice, it just can't get over that.
Thanks so much, Greg. Thank you.
Yeah.
I got a pretty nice mic set up here right below the computer, but still, it's only one mic picking up the guitar and the voice. So
Everything. Wow. Do you drink anything or take anything for your voice?
I do sometimes, yeah. There'll be times. There was a period of time just like a month and a half ago where the weather out here in Sacramento was so dry. I was helping my friend and I was doing some voiceover recording for him, and they just kept telling me, the guys kept getting back to me saying, God, like they said, Mark, your voice is just getting hoarse. It's hoarse. It's hoarse. Like it's lacking this sort of timbre. So what I had to do, and what I've done in the past when I've had a lot of trouble with my voice just getting this hoarse quality to it, is I'll have boiling water that I'll let cool a little bit with honey and just straight lemon juice. It's like a concoction, and I'll just whip that up. It'll be boiling water, lemon juice, honey. And if I drink that, maybe like two mugs of those, it just totally coats my vocal cords. And that's something I learned when I was in a high school in UCLA doing musical theater, because sometimes you would do like 4 shows and then you had a 5th show and the voice was just gone. And the teachers would say, drink this concoction and then don't speak the rest of the day. Tomorrow you'll be ready. And so
Okay. All right. All right. I just wanted to ask about that.
the other thing too, I'll just mention is that I found that's so incredible is, this is crazy, but um upper body exercise and core exercise just does wonders for the voice. And the best exercise you can do to strengthen your voice is actually swimming. It's crazy. If you do swimming, and do like laps, it works out your arms, your pectorals, your back. It really strengthens your core, and then on top of that, it gives you the breath control because of the swimming. And that is, I would say, anyone who wants to become a stronger singer, I would recommend that the best exercise you could do would be swimming laps. In my opinion, that's the best.
And the lungs, like you said.
Yeah.
Yeah, everything, yeah, I can see that. Wow. I wouldn't have correlated it with that, but I can see that now. Wow, that's interesting. The next song up, I think we'll wait until the end of the show. You can kind of take us out with it, is what are we really saying? But I think I told you that it reminds me a lot of Cat Stevens.
Yeah.
Especially the guitar and that one. You can see the influence on that one.
Yeah.
But if that's all right, you want to play that one towards the end?
Sure. Yeah.
Okay.
I'd be honored.
Okay. Nowhere to Be.
Yeah.
That's a nice video. Was your wife the one who filmed it, or who was with the camera?
Believe it or not, and I wish I had asked her, and I wish I had tried to involve more people, because that film shoot was so brutal in a lot of ways, but it was all me.
Oh, okay,
Yeah,
really?
I took a GoPro,
Okay.
and I just went out to this beautiful area called Cronin Ranch Regional Trails, and yeah, I just filmed the whole thing. I There were certain days, like there was like a couple times where I could do 2 days in a row, but then because of work, I maybe would only be able to do 1 day, and then I'd wait a week, and the next weekend I'd do another day. But I think all told, with the other location, if you know what I mean, the location that Smash cuts in and you see me in a different location. I won't give away what it is unless, but if you want me to, I will, but I
No,
won't
that's
if you don't want me to. But I think all told, with both locations, I think it was like 10 days of filming spread out over the course of a few months. I happen to be difficult to work with in a couple ways. One is that sometimes when I'm rearing to go to do something, I hate waiting. So like if like, my wife wouldn't happen to be available, or my brother wouldn't happen to be available for like, I'm working on a music video with my brother right now. I hate having to wait, for other people when I say to myself, I just want to go do it now, But then the other thing is, I tend to be a real perfectionist, and I put myself through things for the sake of, getting the take or getting the footage. I put myself through things that I think no one else would. And so to expect my wife or my brother to put themselves through that on my behalf.
Okay.
I always say to myself, my relationship is worth more than that. I'm not going to put them through that, But I tell you, for that Nowhere to Be music video, I sometimes was hiking miles on end over hills and down valleys in the blazing sun. And I would get up at 5 and I would get to the location by 9 or 9:30, and I'd be filming till sundown. And I'd be carrying all the gear, all the props, everything on my back. And I told my wife after one day when I came back and my whole body was sore because I had basically been hiking up and down valleys and hills the whole day getting shots. And I said to her, I feel like I could be in the Marines, like after what I did today. I was like, like I did a crucible or something,
Right.
But that's an exaggeration. But I was like, that was just crazy what I did. But luckily, with my brother who's helping me with the next music video that we're working on right now, it is helpful to have two people. And my brother's kind of starring in it. So it gives me a little bit of an excuse to, like, he's the subject. So he and I can carry the stuff together, and not so much of the focus has to be on me. I can just capture him, And so it's made it a little easier. Yeah.
Right. Yeah. Couple of things about that. Have any movies been made in that, especially the valley part? It just looks real familiar. Like,
Yes, there have been. Oh, I
yeah.
wish I could.
I mean,
I
if you can't think of them offhand, but it looks like I know I've seen some movies that
There was a famous show, actually. A famous show. Off the top of my head, it's escaping me. It was a show kind of set in like the I mean, there might have been some movies too that I'm not aware of, but there was a famous episodic show that I think ran for, it was either a mini series or it might have run for multiple seasons, and it was set in like the Little House on the Prairie type era.
I was kind of leaning that.
Yeah.
Yeah. Like
There's
that.
even a cabin that's built in that location, and it was built for that series, and it still stands there.
It's still there. It's still there.
Yeah. But
Wow.
I'm sorry, I can't remember what it was called. I wish I could.
That's all right. The opening chords of the song remind me of "Here Comes the Sun."
Yeah.
Yeah, was that
Definitely.
intentional? Was that intentional?
It wasn't, but I have heard that
Uh-huh.
many times. Yeah. I don't know, and no offense to anybody, but George Harrison isn't my favorite Beatle, John Lennon is my favorite Beatle. But
Right.
but still, like, I have somehow had a bit of a sympathy or a resonance with George Harrison, because another song I have on Sweet Famine, Windy Hill, I feel like has some guitar work that sounds a bit Harrison-ish,
Okay.
So yeah, there's a weird resonance. And then also, oh my gosh, another song somebody once said to me, this sounds just like this George Harrison song, was I have a song on Watchpot called Something to Live For. And somebody said to me one time when they heard it, they said, that song reminds me of Wah Wah by George Harrison. And I was like,
Okay.
oh man, it does sound like Wah Wah. So, and I was not thinking of Wah Wah. I was actually ripping off other artists when I did Something to Live For. I was not even trying to rip off Wah Wah, but still. But anyway, so yeah, so George Harrison all the way. Yeah, he must have been an inspiration, because I've emulated him without even trying it many times.
Without even trying. Did you use an iron or a wood to tee off that phone?
Oh yeah. Oh yeah. I used an iron.
An iron, okay. That's a great moment in that song.
Thank you.
Do you do any golfing yourself?
No, and the funny part is I have some friends who probably, had they saw that, would have laughed so hard, because when I've actually tried golfing, I'm the kind of guy who, when I put the ball on the tee, I will swing 10 times, and I'll hit more dirt off the
Yeah.
driving range before I actually hit that ball anywhere. So I'm pretty bad at golfing. My brother Josh is good though. My brother Josh, when we would go to driving ranges, he could just, without any training, he could just knock that thing.
Wow. Another track, Lover. Nice riff, like the riff in that one. It's a simple song, but it stays in your head. It stays in your head time after hearing it. Yeah, that's a nice one.
Thank you.
Um, other tracks and demos, work in progress. As I walk through the forest, my mind wanders.
Yeah.
I like that. I like that title.
Thank you.
I'd like to see that one developed into a full song, or at least longer as an instrumental.
Yeah.
I
Thank
think
you.
it's got a lot of potential. That one does. Yeah, it grabs you right away.
Thank you so much. Thank you.
Um, and then Milton's Misery,
Yeah.
very English.
Yeah.
Um, I I love those kind of songs, and I couldn't think of the right adjective for it, but it harkens back to the great singer-songwriters of the past,
Oh,
you
yeah.
know, and the distorted voice of the manager.
Yeah.
It, did you get, was there a particular song that you got inspiration for that one?
Yeah. So that's a demo that's going to be on the 2024 album. It's called Pastoral Pictorial. And that album should hopefully come out, God willing, by summer 2024. And I've been working on it all this time. I worked on it a whole lot in 2020. That album is hugely inspired by the early Genesis with Peter Gabriel,
Oh, right, right.
as well as some Moody Blues, the Moody Blues. So um yeah, I was emulating. Also, I should say there's one other song that inspired that song, and that is John Cale's Paris 1919.
Okay, I know
Um
which. Yeah. Yes.
yeah, that's the one that's like, you're a ghost, la 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 la, you're a ghost, la 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 la.
Yeah.
And so I was going for this song that was high energy, very staccato, very British, like you said. I was totally going for that. And yeah, I picked and grabbed different elements from lots of different songs. Like there's a Genesis song on their album Foxtrot. I'm trying to remember Get Him Out by Friday. That's the
All
song.
right.
And I borrowed a little bit from Get Him Out by Friday. The staccato quality, I was inspired by both Paris 1919, but I was also inspired by this song on Nursery Crime called Harold the Barrel. And I was
Hmm.
like, oh yeah, I love that staccato thing they've got going on. Very, very British, very BBC, very you know. So I was inspired by those. And then and then the Moody Blues though are more of an inspiration, kind of like they're peppered throughout the whole of my album Pastoral Pictorial, especially in the Mellotron. I have a Mellotron pedal that I can run
Oh
keys
yeah.
through, and I'm
Oh,
a
I love
huge
the Mellotron. I
yeah.
love the Mellotron. Definitely. That's one of my top favorite instruments.
Yeah,
You
I
know,
love the Mellotron.
and you know another one is the oboe.
Yeah, the
Oh,
oboe. Yeah,
love the sound of that. If it's done right, it creates such a mood. But yeah, that Mellotron. That's what drew me to the Moody Blues too.
yeah,
Was hearing that. The wow, that's an early Genesis. Yeah, that is really cool that you're into early Genesis too.
yeah.
That's some of the best stuff there. Um, Wolf Mountain. That one has a lot of potential also. Good guitar in that one.
Thank you so much. Yeah, I've heard people tell me that that one kind of reminds them of like a Gordon Lightfoot kind of thing a little bit.
Yeah,
I don't know.
I can hear a little bit. I can hear it.
And yeah, that one. Uh, Again, I was listening to a lot of Genesis, and I thought that the breakdown that I do on guitar, which I can even play it for you real quick here.
Yeah, yeah.
The little breakdown in that to me sounded so much. Oh, to me, when I discovered Genesis, I sort of began this tireless pursuit of prog. Like, what is prog? You
Mhm.
know? And I'll have a story to relate to you too in a minute regarding music that I found through you
Okay.
that took me in that took me to Prague again, and it showed me Prague, and it tickled my fancy, and I was like, what is this? What is Prague? Like, I got obsessed with it.
Right.
But this part that I came up with, to me, I thought it was I wrote this when I was kind of on my journey to understanding what is Prague, and to me it sounded proggy to me. So it goes messed it up a little bit there, but um,
Yeah.
but yeah, that's basically the. Let's see, what did I do wrong there? Something like that.
Ah,
Crazy changes and kind
right.
of like I probably change tempo slightly there, and I go
Mhm.
crazy with chords for a moment. I'm totally out of the tonic, you know.
Right. Are you into any Yes?
Yeah, I do like Yes. I remember, you know what I really like of Yes, that guy John, what's his last name? I'm drawing a blank. The lead singer,
Oh yeah.
John
Now
Anderson?
you're
No,
John Anderson. No,
John
it's
Anderson.
John Anderson. It's Anderson. Is it John? It is Jon.
John
Jon.
Jon.
Yeah. Yeah.
I I like Yes, and I remember I had their cassette tape of Relayer, and I listened to that a lot, but it was almost so proggy. I was like trying to like
Right.
find some, because I need pretty music, you know? I need music to still fall into some boundaries where I feel that button or that hook that just feels so good, you know, and it needs to be kind of pretty. And
Right.
so but I really love this album that is John Anderson from Yes and Odysseus Vangelis from
Yes.
Aphrodite's Child.
Right.
Like,
John and Vangelis. Yes. John and
yeah,
Vangelis.
John and Van. I'm a huge Aphrodite's Child fan, huge, and
Oh.
I love Demis Roussos, you know.
Yep.
Um, and
Yep.
so there's this album, John and Vangelis, that I love. I love, love, love. I'm trying to remember. There's one song on it in particular too that's just I'm crazy about. I'd have to. It's in my car, but
Right.
yeah. So I do. Yeah, I have listened to some Yes, um,
Uh,
for sure.
that is. Oh, here we go. Here we go. Well,
Yep. Oh, so nice. Is that their greatest hits or?
that is like their first or second album.
Oh,
It, it's the one that's it's called End of the World, and
oh
it's
yes.
got where is the End of the World? Rain and Tears. You know the
Rain
song
and
Rain and
oh yeah, I love Rain and Tears.
it's on there.
That
But
I
I just happen to have that over.
that's so
over
cool.
there.
At farmers markets, I used to play it. You should come with me to the end of the world. World. I'm rusty, but I used to actually play that song.
Yeah,
Um,
yeah. The New Creation.
yeah.
I like the mood of this one, and the tempo is really nice on
Oh,
that one.
thank you.
Yeah.
Thank you
Is
so
that one?
much.
Is that one going to show up on one of the newer albums?
Yeah, it will. That'll be on Pastoral Pictorial. And
Okay.
that an interesting thing about that song. So it's pretty, for me, I find it mind-boggling because I wrote so many of those songs that you're mentioning. I wrote them all the way back in 2016. But I've got this issue where I write so many songs and I've got such a massive queue of songs to record that
Mhm.
I had to basically stop writing for a while so as to not continue accumulating and accumulating and accumulating. Um, so that was a song in 2016 when I wrote that one. When I became a full-time musician in 2016, I said to myself, well, now that I'm a full-time musician, that means every day I should be sitting down and working on writing songs, right? But what I realized is the moment you become a full-time musician, you need money so bad. Oh, I should. Oh yeah, sorry. The original sound for musicians is still off. I thought I turned it on. My bad.
That's all right.
But uh, I needed money so bad when I became a full-time musician that I basically had no time to write songs,
Mhm.
and it felt like this uh, crazy luxury that it was just like there's no way I'm gonna have time to write music because instead I need to be booking gigs. I need to be booking my next gig. I got to be getting that next client who's gonna pay me to do chord arranging for them or something. And so it's just so funny how when music stops being a hobby, you find that you're faced with the business of music, which is
Mhm.
very uncreative and mostly, you know.
Right, right. I
Yeah.
could see that. Yeah, when it becomes that, and I think so many musicians, present and past, when it does become that business, it's not enjoyable,
Yeah.
any when it gets to that point. Um, and so yeah, you got it's a balance, I'm sure. I guess. Are there any others that demos that you're still working on?
Um, the album that's coming out in 2024 is that one that you can see there on SoundCloud that's got all those demos. But there is an album that is also completely written, just not recorded, that's going to come out in 2027, hopefully. And that one is I feel like it's where I actually achieved what I would call actually prog music, you know? I
Okay.
finally figured it out, and I figured out, okay, this is how I write a prog song, you know? Because I feel like a prog song has to be kind of long, in my opinion. It
Right.
has to be weirder chords that don't necessarily, you know, wouldn't think go together, but they work. I feel like prog music should change some tempos here and there and have parts of the song where one feeling or style of the song kind of suddenly shifts and it's a whole new style or feeling. And so finally, it was around 2018, 2019, after I'd released Sweet Famine. I was still writing songs kind of all through that time. I came up with a body of work. It's probably going to be like a 9-song album, I think, that I felt like, this is prog music, you know?
Gotcha.
And it's my own prog music. Like, it has touches of Genesis. It has touches of the Moody Blues. It even has maybe touches of like Dead Can Dance. But it's
right.
my own thing, I felt like, you know? Like, whereas I feel like people will listen to Pastoral Pictorial and be like, wow, this is like as if some, you know, kid from California came up with like a Moody Blues early Genesis album and they recorded it in their bedroom, you know? They might sort of say that, you know, when it's finished and they hear it with all the bells and whistles and the Mellotron and everything. But I feel like for the 2027 album, that's going to sound more like people aren't really going to know what to think of it, you know? Because I finally kind of got out of this mindset of like, I kind of let the songs kind of be and just come out of me. And I didn't really have anything in mind when I was creating them, at least production wise, you know? They're more like, they just kind of are what they are, you know?
Right.
So that kind
Wow.
of thing.
Wow. I know you're looking forward to, work completing both of those, but it sounds like you've got, a good game plan too. You're not trying to rush things. You're kind of mapping it out like that. I guess you've learned that from your own experience as well. What about talk about your family, including the feline children?
Yeah. They were just meowing. I literally was hearing one of them right out there outside the door. But they can't, they're not allowed in here because it's our one bastion against the hair, you know? Their dander is just everywhere. And our one bastion is just this room, our bedroom. So so we don't let them in, you know? Something I would love to take a moment to do is tell people my journey with your channel and also like my gratitude for you and your channel. Would that be okay?
Sure. Yeah, go for it. Yeah.
I plotted it because, you know, I plotted it out. And I got to say, for people listening, like, you know, Greg's Tending the Pale Bloom is hugely responsible for that album, Sweet Famine, because I basically feel like what was open to me was this kind of genre and quality of song that was almost like really niche and obscure, but that's what made it all the more amazing. How good the songs were and yet how obscure they were. And so I wanted to just quickly go over kind of how I discovered your channel. And because really Sweet Famine to me owes a lot of its sound to both your channel as well as at the time as well, when I was like really listening to your channel a lot, I was listening to this cassette tape of Jim Croce that's called Time in a Bottle, Love Songs of Jim Croce.
Wonderful stuff. Yeah.
So those two together. So here's, I'll set the stage real quick. So it was 2012. It was the year 2012, and I was living alone. Okay. in Los Angeles. And like I was saying, I was trying to keep myself company with music because I'd left all my friends and I would see them once a week, once every 2 weeks, and I was feeling kind of lonely. But the music was what really kept me company, and it filled my world with just all this joy, and all of this wonder. At the time, before I discovered you, I was listening to this channel that's different now, but I wonder if you've heard about it. It's called Earp John, like EARP and then JOHN.
EARPJOHN. No, I'll make a note of that. I don't think so, but um, I will look and see. I've subscribed to, several, so maybe one. EARPJOHN. Okay.
JOHN. And the symbol, it's got this little hand doing like a peace symbol, is like the subscriber logo.
Okay. I'll
Now,
look. Okay, go ahead.
what I'll say is it's changed a lot, because back in 2012, Earp John was uploading whole albums, and it was all basically around the 60s and 70s era of music. And they
Okay.
were uploading whole albums, and I was like just consuming, like a junkie, just consuming whole albums of music from the 60s and 70s. And some of the stuff I was listening to was like Beacon Street Union, like, but they released an album called under the name Eagle, but I was listening to that band. I was listening to this psychedelic folk band out of Canada called The Children.
Oh yeah.
This band called the Chocolate Watch Band. I listened to some of
Uh,
their stuff
uh,
too. The Electric Prunes, I got into them a wee bit. There was this band called the Deep Six that had this song called Unlock the Door that really blew my mind. Um, this band based out of SF called Serpent Power that was led by this guy, David Meltzer. He's like a poet. Um,
okay.
so super obscure stuff. Now, Earp John, though, changed. I think they got into legal trouble or something. And
Oh.
like all the music at one point disappeared.
Mm.
And years later, or sometime later, I don't know when, they like reappeared or something. I feel like I found them again, or I found their channel because the first channel suddenly, like, all the content was gone. Then I found the new channel, and the new channel seemed to have different stuff on it, not what I remembered. And it seemed like maybe they got into legal trouble. I really don't know. But during that same year, while snooping around on YouTube, I stumbled upon a song called Mirabelle by the Soulful Dynamics.
Right.
And that song just blew my mind. You can even find on YouTube a comment 10 years ago that says, "These guys are amazing," and it's me. And
Yes.
I was so blown away by that song. And I went and I listened to other stuff by that guy. But they're correct me if I'm wrong, they're like a Nigerian band that got big in Germany or something.
Right. Right. Yep. Yep.
I
Yep.
listened to, um, um, Mademoiselle Nanette, and I listened to Coconuts from Congaville, and, other songs, but just all of their stuff. But Mirabelle, to me, is like, how you're the only person who's ever posted that blows my mind, because I liked that song so much. I burned it to a CD, and for my eldest brother's birthday that year, I mailed it to him. I said, "You
Oh
got to hear
wow.
this song. This song is amazing." And I also, at that time, I listened to your uploads of Tommy Flanders' Purple and Blue, which I still play that song live. And Simon Dupree and the Big Sound. I got so into, when I listened to What in the World or What in This World, I went on to listen to everything Simon Dupree and the Big Sound has done because of that What in This World. Another favorite song of theirs that I discovered once I listened to What in This World was I found Laughing Boy from Nowhere.
Uh,
Um, and and then through Simon Dupree and the Big Sound, because I found it on your channel, I discovered Gentle Giant.
and I was gonna say,
Oh, and again, it was this taste of Prague where I was like, what is
sure.
this?
Right. Right.
Like I Lost My Head, that song, I Lost My Head. Oh man, I still listen to that song. So that really blew my mind. And also it was crazy because when I found Tommy Flanders' Purple and Blue on Tending the Pale Bloom, I had heard of Tommy Flanders back in 2009 because of that band, the Blues Project.
Right.
And
Yeah.
he had been a singer for them or something. And I was like, and suddenly that name sounded familiar. And I was like, but this doesn't sound like the Blues Project.
It
I was
doesn't.
like, this is like the greatest song Bob Dylan never wrote, right? It's just like so beautiful, so just keeps going and going. The lyrics more poetic with each verse. And so that really blew my mind. So then time passed, the year continued. I had that bad drug trip. I moved back to the Bay. And then um, around 2013, 2014, I hearkened back to 2012 and how I used to get into bed at night and I turn off all the lights and I put on music and I just listened in the dark. And I remembered, oh, that channel Tending the Pale Bloom. I want to go back there because there were those 3 awesome songs from there. What else is up there? And that's when there was just a treasure trove of songs that to this day I still play. Like that song "Poor Widow" by Jame. I don't know how to pronounce that
I think
band.
that's right. Jame or Jame.
Another just artist that I found on Tending the Pale Bloom that he just captivated me. John Congos with Seat by the Window.
Right, isn't it?
My,
yeah.
Brilliant,
right.
Man. Brilliant.
Right.
Like,
yeah.
Oh man. And I went on to listen to like Tomorrow I'll Go and other stuff he did that was just so beautiful. I continued listening to Simon Dupree and the Big Sound. Some of the other songs like Save Me by the Lute. I didn't look enough into like other stuff they did, but that song just changed my life. Why Don't You Follow Me by Mighty Joe Young. Smile by Waterloo. I was playing that song up until the pandemic. I was playing Smile at farmers markets all the time. It's funny, the first time I heard Smile, my mom and dad had gotten notice that the house we'd lived in for 22 years that they'd been renting, they were getting that the owner was going to sell it, so we had to move. And my parents found another place, and the night before the move, we had a big move the next day. I was still surfing through your channel, I was listening to stuff, and I stumbled upon Smile, and as I was falling asleep, I heard that flute come in playing that intro, and it was just like, wow, man. And that song has stuck with me. The Gods, 5 to 3, just a brilliant, just psychedelic, trippy, weird, but just brilliant piece. Journey's End by Decameron, which, man, I still listen to
brought
that
one up. I was like, yeah, that's one that just gets goosebumps going with me. The kind of songs that get your hair stands up on me, and when you're, yeah.
You know why I listened to it was my dad had written me because he said he'd had this dream. And in the dream, he said there was a moment where his eldest son, my oldest brother, Ashley, was coming to him. And then he said he knew that his parents were close behind. And I remembered Decameron in that line where he says, my parents, close by. I was like, wow. I listened to the song again and I was like, does this song have some clues to kind of like, what was the songwriter experiencing, and what it maybe had something to do kind of like with what my dad was dreaming. Paper Bubble, Just an Actor, man, brilliant song. Alan Taylor's Swallow Swallow really played a big role in inspiring What Are We Really Saying, the song I'll play. His guitar work, yeah, it really is a whole lot.
Right, real simple song, but yeah, it's a folky. Yeah, I can hear that now. Yeah.
It's so cool that you interviewed John Bromley, and I gotta watch it. I'm so stoked to watch it because "Hold Me, Woman" is just one of those songs again that I've returned to and listened to again and again and again.
Yeah, listen to that because he lacks confidence. He always did in his vocal ability, and I told him 2 or 3 times during the interview. I said, John, you have a good voice. He mostly wrote. You'll find out. Watch the interview. But he mostly wrote songs for other people. But he did do that one album that song is off of, and he had several singles, and they all have great vocals. Great, and they're well produced, and it's an album called Songs. Actually, the original was Sing, Sing, but then Revola, I believe it is, who releases older albums and re-releases.
Oh, cool.
They have one. It's like has extra tracks called Songs, Songs, John Bromley, and there's some really good extra tracks on there. But it's all it's right up my alley, that kind of music. So yeah, I think you'll enjoy that interview.
I'll check it out for sure. Yeah, all these people, even if maybe they had some obscurity in their time in music, but they're all, to me, they're legends,
Well,
you know.
that's what it's about. And for you to, listen to a song and then find a connection to another group, just like Gentle Giant,
Yeah.
discover Gentle Giant, that's what it's about too, finding those connections and the bands that they were in early and then they morphed into somebody else. And so it's good that you don't just stop at the channel, but that you keep researching and expanding your knowledge, that
I
way.
love it, man. Like, it's to me, that's what just is, that's what's the most rewarding about discovering new. It gets addicting, right? Finding that new song that'll live on in your mind. After you sent me those Alzo Fronte, I don't know how to say his name, but those
Yeah,
Alzo Fronte songs,
right,
um,
right.
man, that one, Come On, was stuck in my head for days. Like, at
Right,
work or wherever I was going, I was hearing that hook again and again, just going over and repeat in my head, and it was so good, But it's like when you find that new song, right? It's like you live in it. You like live in
right,
that song for a while.
right.
Um, that's what I
And
love so much.
speaking of Alzo, just yesterday, been putting this off for a while. I told you that we were going to do a tribute
Oh yeah.
to him, because he passed away, I think 2004. So I'd been talking to his brother, and then today I talked to his sister, and then there's another lady who was involved. He was like his manager towards the end, and we're going to try. We're really pushing for December to do kind of a tribute, in this channel to him. It'll be the first of a kind. Everyone else I've talked to is, living, breathing artists, but it'll be the first. And we're hopefully, going to have a good. The only things that we're missing is the actual musicians that played with him in the early '70s on the album. They've passed away too, so there's no connection there for people to actually talk about the production and what the recording process was about and all that stuff. But I think we're going to get his early life from his family and his later life, so hopefully get a good overview, you know. Hope it's going to work out, but it's going to be very rewarding, I think, doing that.
I can't wait to check it out. For me, the second half of October into the first half of November is always super busy for me because I'm a Libra. I was born on the 19th of October, and then my mom is a Scorpio. My brother Ashley, the oldest brother, is a Scorpio, and then me and my wife's wedding anniversary is even on the 23rd. And then there's Halloween, and then early November there's other birthdays in my family. So it's like I'm slammed. So it's like a whirlwind of dinners and stuff like that. But that's why I haven't had a chance to watch some more interviews, but I've been wanting to, and I'm really looking forward to that also one.
Did you say your anniversary was 23rd?
Yeah.
Oh, ours is the 26th of this month.
Wow. Oh, this
I
month,
mean,
cool.
well, now last month now.
Last month, yeah.
Yeah, yeah.
Wow, that's so
October
good.
26th. Yeah, 3 days different.
That's awesome.
Yeah. So we just did that too. So yeah, yeah. Um, wow, yeah. That brings back, yeah, like you said, get you thinking. But yeah, yeah. When you have the time, and all that. But like you said, you just kind of have to family, your music, and all that comes first.
But I'm
Understand?
I'm looking forward to it. I really am. I'm planning on it, especially that John Bromley one, because I'm such a fan of that song. Other
Oh,
ones I really loved, Classical M, that
oh,
French piece, the
no,
that one Yan Here Is a Song by that band Mason.
right.
Um, Incredible. Kurt Bocher, man, like I went on to find out Kurt Bocher was like a producer and he worked with like some pretty hard rock artists, but that song, I Call You My Rainbow, is just so perfect and like sweet, and you just want, and even though I think it might have been, was it like a demo or something, but
Yeah, I think it was. Yeah, I think,
so good.
yeah.
Um, and then Mix Softly, I went on with Mix Softly, I heard, I think, is that album you uploaded, the album, the song was Went Down to the Sea, right? And
Right.
then was that from the album Street Singer?
I
Or
believe, I believe, yeah. It's too short. Did you notice? That's the only criticism I have for it. It's like, but then, I told one interview I did, I said, the song was too short. He said, well, that's better than saying it's too long, right?
Yeah, that's true.
So,
That's true. Yeah. But
but yeah,
I
go ahead. Go
oh,
ahead.
I was just saying, I listened to a lot of Mick Softly. Like I listened to other stuff from Street Singer and some of his other albums, like
Mhm.
Swingin' Survivors. So I forget what that one was called.
Yeah,
But
it does have survivors in it. Yeah, yeah,
yeah.
yeah, yeah.
But anyways, just plethora of great music that you put out there that inspired me, that has been a huge part of my musical journey. So a big thanks to you and any listeners out there. Like you're hearing it from me, Sweet Famine. A lot of the tone of that came from the quality of music you were uploading. It really inspired me. So
Well, I appreciate that, Mark. I'm glad, and I do get a lot of comments. Still get them, and it always makes me feel good. That's the best. That's the well, you being a musician, getting the feedback. That's what it's about. And that you've touched people's lives, or this song has made a difference. Yeah, that makes it worthwhile. So yeah, slowed down a little bit with the uploading to that channel since I've been doing the interviews. But yeah, as they come, as I run across them and whatever, they'll be up there. I'll keep them up there. Thank you again, Mark. I appreciate that. Um, you mentioned your cats are trying to get in. Um, what else? Well, you probably don't have a lot of time, but I was going to say, what else keeps you busy besides music?
that's a great question. Um, really, my music has become in my life um, this kind of like I'm constantly pining for it. You know that song uh Time in a Bottle.
Oh,
But
God.
there never seems to be enough time to do the things you want to do once you found them. You know
Mhm.
that
Isn't that true? Isn't that true?
so true, man. Like and
Yeah.
so for me it's just like yeah, but one thing I will say is my life and my suffering and my hard work and my um ability to make music or my time for making music or my lack thereof, it all informs my music. So even if I can't really have the most time to work on it, in a way it's like I'm always working on it still,
Right.
because as I'm building my experience and I'm getting as I go through my life and I struggle or I suffer and I get a greater understanding of that thing I was telling you about, that divine truth or divine wisdom, just from suffering and struggling through life, it will ultimately inform my music one way or another. And so I pine for my music pretty much throughout my life. And the older I get, have you seen that film Gattaca?
You know, I think I started to watch it and I didn't get all the way through it. Yeah.
I don't want to give it away, but there's this good quote at the end of it where these two guys they're racing swimming,
Hmm.
and one guy asks the other guy, "Why is it that you always win? You've always won the race?" And he says to him, he goes, "It's because I never save anything for the way back." Um, that basically the idea is that it's basically he's gonna win the race or bust, right?
Right.
Um, and for me, it's not a race, but for me, what it is that at the end of the day, you know, people probably would be scared of me saying this, especially close loved ones. But, for me, 401k or pension or retirement or, you know, good medical care or assisted living isn't isn't the end.
Right.
Um, my end is my music.
Right.
And I'll use whatever means necessary to get there,
Hmm.
not at the expense of loved ones, not at the expense of those I care about, and not at the expense of, my fellow human beings. But I'm basically not saving anything for the way back. I'm
Right.
just trying to get to that goal with my music. Um, and for me, that's worth it because I pine for my music, like I said, all the time. And and in a world where I wouldn't be able to do my music, or in a world where I wouldn't be able to get these albums out that I'm trying to get out, I just don't know. I really don't know what the purpose would be for me, at least for me. I really don't know why I'd be here, you know?
Thank you, Mark, and I appreciate your time and for visiting, and again for plugging Tending the Pale Bloom. Thanks for that, and best of luck in everything that you do in life, and just keep pressing on. Just keep doing what you're doing. But go ahead and play that.
Thank you, Greg. I really appreciate that. And this has been a real honor. So thank you for letting me take us out with What Are We Really Saying? You say yes to hurt me less, though you'd rather you said no. I said that we don't have to go, thinking that's what you wanted to hear. What are we really saying? Amidst this indirection, it isn't really clear. I pretend and you reply with an act that rivals mine. And all of this pretending, are we trying to cover our fear? What are we really saying? Amidst this indirection, it isn't really clear. Now it's time that I must go, though I know it hurts you so. But you smile so lovingly, you would never let me know. Okay, let's stay then in the park. I swear I'm telling you I want to. No, I know that I don't have to, but I tell you I'm happy we do. What are we really saying? Amidst this indirection, we're saying I